Alright, in this video, I'm going to be going over two main ideas you need to focus on in order to master Nightreign. It's not any of these crossed out here, it's these two bullet points. Number one, dodging and hitting the boss often, which goes under boss mechanics. Number two, getting items for your team, which requires good pathing and understanding opportunity costs. So even though it's these two bullet points, there's a lot more that goes into them. So for example, on boss mechanics, if you go down here, I have a lot of skills you can learn for trios, especially number one, know what items and passives your teammates are looking for, sharing them, blah, 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 aggro switching, reviving teammates. Here's some other resources for that. And the reason why it's super important is because if you know certain things about these bosses, like having less likely to be targeted for Everdark Libra, or I'd like to highlight knowing that you can clear all the bubbles around you with just Storm Ruler swings, and if you manage your FP and stamina, you'll never get hurt by the bubbles, even if you're alone. And Everdark Mars becomes a lot easier when your whole team knows how to do that. So those are just some example of boss mechanics. So even though it's one bullet point, there's a lot that goes into it that you have to learn and get better at by just playing as well. Number two, pathing. I included a ton of pathing material here. You could follow my formula if you like. I also have videos going over the pathing or just these charts. And pathing is important for getting items. Why is it these two and not relics? Well, I actually do have a relic section, but I'm going to be spending most of my video proving those two and proving why it's not relic. However, if you just wanted like a quick answer on relics, it would be defeating enemies fills more of the art gauge, which I'll show later, Night Invader, and Balancers. Everything else is just like optional, and you can have special builds that don't even use any of the top three. Back to the very beginning where I had my clickbait thumbnail. I want to just quickly go over why these topics are marked off. So for Nightreign, I'm going to be going over these two tabs at the top on my browser. And then for some of the other ones like relic editors or cheaters, I have 4 more clips showing why these are crossed out. So another reason is about a couple months ago, FromSoft gave this chart that 3% of players were in depth 5. Those 3%, it includes a bunch of other players. It includes cheaters, so people who actually hack the game. It includes relic editors, people who either hacked it on their own end or they use a program to edit the relics for possible but incredibly unlikely relics, especially getting 18 out of 18 slots with not that bad demerits. You can cheese the game that way. There's a lot of these players still in depth 5. Dodgers, people who just dodge the boss if they don't like it. I mean, the point of the Deep of Night is to just play with whatever you get. Doesn't make me that angry, but it's still really annoying because I just want to play for the challenge in Deep of Nights, especially if I'm trying to get a certain boss for a video. It's really annoying. Relics. So Relics and Nightreign go together a lot. Those are often discussed on Reddit, and I'll show you that later. Friends is just for fun, but this is referring to like pre-made trios who know what they're doing. All of your friends know how to play the game. They have 800 hours in the game. You can coordinate stuff way better, but for me, I outgrew my friends, and they didn't want to play as much, so I really like playing with random trios because you get to see different builds and how other people act. Nightreign subreddit, I feel like gives good advice in general. However, some of the advice shared on here is really not that big of a deal and not really what people need. And usually it has something to do with relics. But anyway, if we can count for all these types of players, as well as 9999. Even if you reach 9999, I feel like a lot of players who reached it don't really understand what really mattered and why their games were made that easily. They're just probably not thinking about it because it's just a game. So maybe there's 1% of players that have really mastered this game, probably 2% now that time has gone. But yeah, that's where this clickbait comes in. But anyway, I'm going to move on from the clickbait, and I'm going to show you why the two ideas and then why these don't matter that much. So the first thing I'm going to show is why relics don't matter. And I'm not going to be the one showing that. It's going to be Youwy, because Youwy had a really good comparison in his video that he made recently. So I'll let him explain.
Because relics don't even make that big of a difference when it comes to the power of your build. Like, look at these two clips right here. In one, I'm doing ridiculous damage with a
15,000?
crit, and the other one, nowhere near as much. And these two clips is the exact same boss,
5,000.
same depth, both solo mode, and the exact same relics. Not a single one is different. But the reason why there's such a big damage difference is because most of the power in this game comes from the weapon passives and the powers. Like, yeah, relics are important to have just in case your RNG is mid, but relics alone don't make you broken. So basically,
So yeah, as you can see, it's really important that you get items to stack, because those items will help you the most in your runs, not really your relics. Why do I bring that up? Because of certain threads like these. So sometimes I answer questions on Reddit, but this guy wants to know how to keep winning after Depth 4. And as everyone knows, Depth 4 is hellish because the difficulty spikes. And you can't just play the same way as you did in Depth 3. Or you could if you knew how to min-max the game, but yeah. So, relics suggested here, double balancer is definitely good, 48% damage, but that's not everything. Casters are good. Evergaol, and Invader, most sick Invaders, that's fine, but the number one suggestion that's upvoted is Relics. At least this follow-up comment actually focuses on what matters the most, which is how to take advantage of punish windows. When you can do that, you can do anything in this game. There's more stuff like, oh, you need to focus on relics. Death relics has to focus on damage ups. Poster relics. Let's see. If your channel is none, no, that's not correct. It's not relics. Don't be a jack of all trades or master of none. This is also really doesn't. I don't think this is a really good advice either, but at least they make some suggestions. So if you just look at the comments, just like stacking shitfest. Well, no, it's not actually. It's the other two ideas, and I'm gonna go into those as to why. But there's still questions like these. But 5 months ago, a lot of Depth 4 and Depth 5 players knew that Evergaols weren't really that great, and a lot of people were obsessed with Evergaols because they're broken in the base game. But that's not really why we were winning at Depth 4 and 5 months ago. And people knew this, like, a long time ago, 5 months of gameplay. But the rest of the player base hasn't really caught up to that. So that's an example of why I crossed out Reddit, is because Reddit, although it has a lot of good advice and I used it a lot, I feel like the player base still hasn't caught up with what actually matters. Or at least doesn't share the right advice for what really matters. Okay, so I complained a lot about relics. What does that mean? Okay, so I'm going to show you why those relics don't really matter that much. And I'm going to jump a bit over the place, but it's going to be mainly these two ideas. And then the third is explaining why relics don't matter again. And these are the clips that I'll be using. So number one clip, I'm going to show you a Depth 5 player for Depth 5 players struggling at Depth 5. So the classic example is doing the level 3 Evergaol at a bad time. You can see the relics, they actually have really nice setups. My absolute favorite item or line to get items is defeating enemies fills more the art gauge. I really like the builds here. So I need to skip through this video in order to save time. But if you look in this pathing, what I want to do is I want to clear the first camp. I want to clear the cathedral. I want to kill these Night Invaders, get these two churches, because I don't know where the circle is going to end. So I'm really budget for time. If you know things like the circle is going to close in 4 minutes and 30 seconds, that's also really important for understanding pathing and opportunity costs. I listed them here. And that's a big part of the reason why I do not want to do this level 3 Evergaol. However, my teammates are going to ping it even at depth 5, and it's not going to go well. So I'm actually going to skip through that. I'm going to skip through a lot of this video. So this is where defeating enemies fills art gauge really comes into play. So your first camp, we cleared the base camp. I have ultimate charging impaired, so my ultimate's not up yet. But the Wilder is going to do like a ton of damage and clear the first camp in like little time. And it would be fine if they were blood anyway. So while I go through this video, I want you to focus on two things. One, the timer. As you can see, 1 minute and 30 seconds already passed, and in 4 minutes and 30 seconds, the circle will start closing. And I want you to observe the timer as we fight this level 3 Evergaol that they pinged immediately after clearing the church. Let me just see that. Sorry. I know people don't like the skipping, but I want to save time here. So yeah, level 3 Evergaol pinged instantly. I had no chance, even though I like to take over pathing. Okay, so I'm going to help my teammates because it's on the way to Night Invader. Okay, so at 2 minutes, we start doing the Evergaol. So we have 2 minutes and 30 seconds until the first circle closes. Let's see how long it takes for us to clear this Evergaol. So Wilder knows how to parry. That's really cool. As expected from Def 5 player. He has hoarfrost stomp and so does the Undertaker, so we can proc ailments onto the Crucible Knight and make this go faster. The one issue that we have right now is that even though I got items for my Revenants, I'm level 3 and I barely have any FP, so I can't help out in this fight that much. So that's going to cost us some time. All right, if you look at the timer, 1 minute has passed while fighting this Blood Crucible Knight. One that's usually pretty easy, but as you can see, we're level 3. I can't help that much. I dropped the successive attacks passive for one of my teammates so they don't die as much. Oh look, 1 minute and 30 seconds has passed. We only have 1 minute left until the first circle starts closing. Ultimate to do more damage, great. Alright, 2 minutes has passed. We don't have as many resources. We have the melee. I mess up. And what do you know? First circle starts closing, 4 minutes and 30 seconds in. We spent 2 minutes and 30 seconds fighting this Blood Crucible Knight, and we're still not even done. What are we going to get out of it? We're going to get 10, 20k runes, maybe a passive, and that's it. But for some people, they'll say like, oh, I love doing Evergaol. This is easy 10 to 20k runes when you start the game. But doing anything in this game mode gives you runes. the reason why Evergaols kind of suck is because it gives you plus 5% damage, which you don't need in the early game. You need to get items to fill your inventory. And it costs a lot of time because you don't have a lot of resources to deal with. Many of them. Even if it was an easy one, doing the Night Invader would have been a better use of our time, and that's where the opportunity cost goes in. So we could have cleared the Night Invaders in maybe 1 minute with our defeating enemies builds the art gauge, and we could have gotten these 2 flasks, and we'll be on our way to the castle. But even at depth 5, people were addicted. This is a video that's like 1 month ago, but they're addicted to doing level 3 Evergaols when there's a lot that can go wrong. And the first circle wasn't helping us either. So it actually ended up as bad as it could get, even at depth 5, and we got raided by the bouncers later anyway. But that's the end of that. The bouncers is like a smaller chance, but that's still another problem with doing level 3 Evergaols. Okay, so why did I go on that rant about Evergaols? Well, because I wanted to prove 1 and 2 again. We need to get items first before we can deal with anything. And that falls under opportunity cost as well. So the next thing I'm going to focus on is why boss mechanics are the most important for actually doing damage and not relics. And this is the same exact run, but I skipped to Fulghor here. So before I go into this video again, I want you to pay attention to how my teammates act or behave compared to how I act or behave. And the outputs, the real output of my damage compared to theirs. So at the start, I'm testing triple Rings of Lights. Fulghor is resistant to Holy. I noticed the FP is a little high, the FP consumption, for what damage I get out of it. Alright, it's 40 seconds in, and we've done 14k damage. My teammates are looking great. They're aggressive. I was aggressive. Wilder makes a mistake here, which I wasn't really expecting at depth 5. But that mistake means I can't get back to Fulghor. I can't damage Fulghor, so the only one that can damage Fulghor right now is Undertaker. He gets a nice 2k off. And because I spent time reviving the Wilder, we couldn't break Fulghor's charge attack. But now we're not doing any damage for another 10 to 20 seconds because we're dodging all the spears. Wilder does about 1.5k with Nebula Stars. I start using Stars of Ruin here because I realized that Triple Rings of Light wasn't that effective. And if you pay attention, my Stars of Ruin does 700 damage per cast, which is not a lot. But I want you to pay attention to how many times I'm casting it compared to my teammate. Melees take aggro so my teammates can start hitting. Okay, this is where it starts. I'm expecting to get hit because I'm taking aggro, 700 damage from Stars of Ruin. Not a lot. There's another 700 damage. Here's another 700 damage. Out of that 2.4k that was done, I was responsible for 1.4k. $1.5 from the Wilder. 600 from the Undertaker. 700 from me. 700 again from me, 1.4k. 700 again, 2.1k. 700 again, 2.8k. I get aggro. Okay, so we'll watch here. The Undertaker doesn't know how to deal with this attack, so she's just spamming dodge. But if you notice while I was yapping, I was just casting Stars of Ruin and doing 700 per cast. 700 again. I don't manage my stamina correctly, so I have to spot dodge, but I won't expect people to memorize that. 700 again. What are my teammates doing? They're far away, so they're not doing any damage. 700 again. This is a good opportunity for my teammates to do damage, but they're playing careful. $700 almost from me again. 800 from them. 1k, 700. I think you get the point now. So I noticed that Undertaker didn't know how to dodge, so I was playing a little bit more cautiously. The Wilder didn't expect the Undertaker to die, so he got caught. I'm doing 700 again. My Undertaker needs to survive my Wilder. The reason why I'm repeating why I'm doing 700 each time is because your damage output, or DPS, the formula is not just how much damage percentage you have, but how often you punish the boss. I mess up here and panicked. So I'll just let the rest of the fight go. I know how to dodge this. It's just two... Well, it's only one dodge, really, because you dodge the initial swing, and then you spam for the second dodge and just surge spin away. Okay, so I know I talked a little more than I should, but I think the gameplay actually doesn't really matter here. What really matters is understanding how important it is to know your boss mechanics so that you can punish the boss often. And that is the main source of how you're going to take down these bosses. That's your main source of damage. It's actually hitting the boss. So you notice that even though the Wilder and Undertaker had really good setups and they were doing a lot of damage, when they got downed, our whole damage output went down. Unlike the start where we just did like 15k together aggressively. And they knew that they kind of performed probably worse than they usually do. So they bowed down, which is whatever. I'm just playing to aura farm at this point. But even though I'm a Revenant casting Stars of Ruin for 700 damage per cast, I was doing it so often because the skill was so busted. I was able to contribute probably the most to this fight and take a lot of the aggro while my teammates were playing super cautiously. If I was Recluse, I'd do 1.8k, but it doesn't matter for me because all I know is that I just need to hit the boss often with barely any damage ups. I think 20% from Night Invader. I had the Murray Greatsword, but I didn't get that many stacks. So yeah, this is where number one comes in. If you notice, I can dodge like the 10-hit swing attack. A lot of people will fold into pieces when it's targeted towards them. In one of my example clips, the exact thing happens. So go here. The 10 or at 11 hit attack starts going up. At this point, most players are going to fold like a piece of paper if they don't have enough damage negation or other ways to deal with this. But if you notice, you can dodge the entirety of that attack, or if you know your boss mechanics, by just dodging the initial swing and then just getting a second dodge by spamming your inputs, and then you should sprint away, and it's not a problem. But the Undertaker didn't know that, and that cost us a lot of time. So that's why boss mechanics are really that important, and because I knew them, I could punish Fulghor a lot. Good F5 players combine both damage from their relics and items, as well as dodging and hitting the bosses, and that's where you get the 60-second melting clips. Okay, that went a little longer than I wanted, but I just wanted to show you an extra clip of Dep 5 Everdark Libra, where we only take 2 to 3 minutes, but we have one of the most hated builds, which is Melee Duchess. But it doesn't matter that it's a Melee Duchess, and you'll see why. So I need to skip to the relics here. Unfortunately, I can't show all of them because I didn't save the match history. But this guy's name is RT Chair Destroyer. If you look at his relics, all he had was Vigor. It was a straight Vigor Duchess with some utility. But this Everdark Libra fight only took about 3 minutes. And why is that? It's because I had less likely to be targeted 9. I gave that dagger to the Duchess, and I actually found that dagger in the very first POI. I skipped the level 3 Evergaol. Whenever you spawn in this place, 90% of the time, your teammates are going to ping this level 3 Evergaol. But I don't want to do this level 3 Evergaol because I want to get items first. As soon as we got that less likely to be targeted dagger, this fight was over for Everdark Libra. Anyway, back to the Vigor Duchess. This guy's literally RT Chair Destroyer. He's just spamming melee attacks. I actually don't want to watch this full thing. I just want to show maybe when we do a burst of damage, so I can save more time. So this guy's literally playing for fun and just stabbing the crap out of Libra. He's jumping on Libra. His name is RT Chair Destroyer. He's a full Vigor Duchess. Normally, a full Vigor Duchess, or sometimes you'll get a teammate that's a melee Duchess, and they don't do that much. But that's because they're not hitting the boss as often as RT Chair Destroyer is. So I just want to show that like even non-meta builds can be viable as long as you know your boss mechanic. And you can have a lot of fun with different builds too. Another reason to not worry about relics too much. Yeah, so that's just a quick demo. We can kill Dep 5 Everdark Libra without that many damage ups because we got less likely to be targeted. So Duchess had no damage ups. I usually have 1.4. The Executor had balancers. Okay, the next clip I want to show, again, why relics aren't that important in the whole scheme of things. They're maybe like 20% important. Is a video of where both of my teammates had edited relics. So let me go show you those. We'll go find them. Again, these fights are not really that important. What's really more important is demonstrating the concept. I know people don't like me scrubbing through, but I really need to find their relics. Let's see here. Okay, I think this is where it is. Okay, so possible relics, most likely. I don't know all of the possible combinations, but having 1 or 2 of these is not suspicious at all. Having 3 of these, very suspicious. Yeah, I don't need to go into these. And then if we look at their debuff knights, they picked the least damaging demerits. Revenant uses Faith for her incants, and she chose to do Strength, Intelligence, and Dexterity. Wonder why. How lucky. Anyway, this is just an example of people with 99.99999% edited relics. The RNG to get this is just way too high. And these demerits too. If we look at the Duchess, double balancers, I mean, these are free at least. this is a highly possible relic for one person to have, so this setup is not that suspicious, actually. But where it did get very, very suspicious was with her Deep of Night relics. So Reapers for the Halo Scythe build, again, demerits that don't affect your gameplay that much. Yeah, Perfected Relics again. Why do I want to focus on these relics? Well, first of all, they're in the trios match. They're not just doing it offline on their own for fun. It does affect others' gameplay experience. So, you might think with 2 people with perfect relics, why is this fight against a bear? Shouldn't we blast through it? Well, that's not what happens. So Revenant dies, I have less likely to be targeted, Duchess has less likely to be targeted. So these first 2 deaths I wouldn't really count. But if we skip through this fight, Duchess goes down immediately, even though she did a ton of damage. Whatever. Revenant, oh, Duchess dies again. And we haven't even chipped that much of Great Red Bear because she didn't dodge, or not enough damage negation or vigor. Revenant dies for the first time, not used to taking aggro, because we have less likely to be targeted. No damage is being done here. I'm playing it really safe. And while reviving the Revenant, Duchess wasn't paying attention to the boss, and the boss aggro switches when you're reviving a teammate, so the Duchess died. Okay, so at this point, the 2 people doing the most damage, the 2 people with the cheated relics, are dead. I have not died once. If I die here, the game is literally over. And who wants to 1v1 a Great Red Bear as Revenant? Not me. So, the nice thing about Revenant is that I can build the rest of my ult and I can pick my teammates back up. But in order to do that, I have to kite very carefully. The only time I'm attacking with Distance of Light is when I know it's safe, and that is very rarely. While my ult builds up. My ult builds up. Revenant goes down again. We're not even at half HP yet on the Red Bear, and the Red Bear is stacking damage, as you can see. I think that's it. And then they finally decide to lock in. And as you see here, Revenant even had damage negation, but she has no vigor, so that's probably barely going to help her at all. It would have been better on me, but I'm not going to expect them to know that, or account for that, or share. So, as you can see, I spent a ton of this fight chipping down or just waiting for my ult to pick up my teammates. They died way too much, and that's minus 800 if I failed. No amount of damage there would have helped with this fight. I really needed to just play carefully, be able to pick up my teammate. If they survived more and hit the boss a lot, then it would have been a problem. Okay. So that's just throwing shade at people with edited relics. Even at depth 5, that's not going to blast through the game like you think it is. You need to be able to survive. Okay. Now that I've complained about relics a bunch, I want to focus a little bit more on pathing and items. So I always say that getting items is important. Well, what does that mean? It means clearing POIs that give you a ton of items for your time. So with the Great Hollows, for example, it's better to do double castle meta because you can get a ton of dormant powers and a ton of items. We do that here. Our Dreglord fights only takes 5 minutes, including the cutscene. And we don't have edited relics. If I go back to our inventories, Oh yeah. Oh yeah, sorry. I also wanted to prove another thing is that even though I have Night Invader and I weigh it as high importance, we didn't do any Night Invaders in this run. So that's 21% damage, or the only we can only get 7% in the seed anyway. But sorry, which I don't know. If you just look at our items here, our items are full of like reds, yellows from clearing double castle meta and having item discovery from the mimic chest. With these amount of items and the passives that we got for clearing all the mini bosses in the double castle meta, that's what's gonna make our run that much easier. My Night Invader relic didn't get used at all in this run, and that's gonna happen a lot in Great Hollows. So more points as to why just getting items is way more important with good padding, because that's what's gonna make your fights that much easier, especially getting damage negation at full HP. Another thing people like to talk about is getting runes from the Evergaols, and this is just another example why I don't care about getting runes at all, because doing anything in this game gives you runes. And one example of getting items and runes is killing one trash mob. So I've included a bunch more stuff of my pathing here. We're not going to go into those, just taking way too long on this video. But if you look for damage negation at full HP, even red trash mobs are worth their time, because sometimes you can drop something nice. So let's see. Damage negation at full HP, there you go. Another one. Now this is like... Okay, so we just killed a Banished Knight as well for the Dormant Power, and that's an easy 12, 20k runes. The way you get a bunch of runes is clearing castle, usually day 1. Or doing literally anything in this game mode, not just Evergaols. And you can get other benefits like getting drops with good passives like damage negation at full HP for 1 second of effort. If you remember, in this clip where I had the worst case scenario for level 3 Evergaol, we spent 2 minutes and 30 seconds fighting that Blood Crucible Knight. But we spend way less time in this video doing other POIs, which gave us way more value for our time. The last thing I wanted to cover, I guess this goes on to why relics and boss mechanics, relics don't matter and boss mechanics are more important. In this video, this Revenant is really nice actually. They commented on the Reddit saying thanks because they saw this video on Reddit or whatever. So this is not a slight against them, but it's just to demonstrate 4 months ago, I already knew what was most important because I lost to Everdark Libra 3 times in a row. But then I figured out I could solo carry if I just play patiently. If you look at my relics, I literally don't have a line here. I have HP. Ghost Flame is great. This is useless for me because I don't use my claws. More vigor. So, useless line, useless line. Useless line here. Useless line here. Useless line here. This helps me with Libra's holy damage by like 5%, so maybe not useless. I get some FP from my 3 seals, but I usually don't like that line. We didn't clear a great church. I don't have anything for my damage ups. But if you watch the whole video, you'll notice that my teammates who went full glass cannon pretty much did not that much to this fight. They're constantly down. Again, I'm not mad at them, especially since the Revenant took their time to comment on the video and say thanks for the carry. But I just want to show you that this whole video, which takes 10 minutes, is just me soloing Everdark Libra with less likely to be targeted. My whole team has it with Distance of Light. Because I know if I play carefully, Everdark Libra is actually easier than a lot of bosses to solo because he doesn't have that many moves in his Everdark version, especially when you have less likely to be targeted. So yeah, I hope my video doesn't go like too much into ranting about why relics aren't important. But all of them tie together on why these two are the most important. If you focus on improving your padding, and if you focus on improving your boss mechanics and knowing how to deal with all of them, you don't have to play perfectly. You don't need the luck in this run to win. You don't always have to win. So I want to show you my recent gameplay. So I'm currently on, I think, an 18 win streak. And some of these have cheated relics. And some of these runs, I don't even have damage negation. Because I gave it to all my teammates, and I didn't get anything back. So half of Guardian's inventory was from me. This game sucked because he didn't share items. And he didn't know how to play Guardian, which is whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm not mad about the Guardian choice or his relics. I didn't like playing this run because he didn't know how to utilize him, as some of the other Guardians did in my other videos. Like, this was given by me. This was given by me, I think. I gave him successive attacks, and he gave it back to me when he got one. I gave him this. I really would have liked to have this for Fulghor. But because I've played Fulghor so much, not having damage negation is not a problem, but it is really scary for me. But yeah, and I lost here because of connection issues from the Scholar. Maybe I could have clutched this duo like I did for some of my other videos. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that what really matters for all these win streaks was just knowing my boss mechanics and good pathing. It wasn't, I've been using the same relics for like 5 months. Hopefully I can break this win streak as well. To close out this video, I think I'd like to just go over my guide a little bit. I'm going to analyze it more in another video, as probably my last video. Let's see here. Oh yeah, so I have more clickbait for like the Dreglord and stuff. My relics were pretty bad back then when I made this guide as well. I guess I want to spend the rest of my time on defeating... Okay, so I've given so much hate about relics and about Evergaols, but there actually are good times to do Evergaols, especially if one of my teammates have it. I don't recommend the level 2-3 Evergaol, blah, blah, blah. But they're actually great to do at the end of day 1 or 2 when you have an inventory full of items and you have people with a relic. So, and I do have a video where I do clear Evergaols. It's in this Everdark one. It's in the pathing section, so in the map. And I do mention when is a good time, I think, to do Evergaols. So we did 3 Evergaols here, pathing, Night Invaders, blah, blah, blah. So yes, I hate Evergaols, but you can do them. But there is opportunity cost. The last line I want to go over, or the last relic thing I want to go over, is defeating enemies fills more the art gauge. So I went over this briefly, but the reason why this is so good is because it helps you get a ton of items faster. And that's the number 2 bullet point. I think this line is still underrated, but pretty much every character can use this, and this will make your day go much easier. It won't help you on the boss as much, the Night Lord, but it'll make your days clearing enemies, clearing mobs, camps, everything faster. What happens when you do that? You get more gear, you get more passives, you get more opportunities for good RNG. It's not guaranteed. But if you do that, you can go on big win streaks, like I shared in my result history. So hopefully this is enough evidence. I took way more time than I wanted to. But the reason why I wanted to be thorough is to show why it's those two. So yeah, thanks for watching. I really wanted to make this video 5 months ago, but I wanted to make sure that I was confident to be able to defend this idea. and see if I learned anything new, and I did learn a lot. So best of luck. Even if you follow these two ideas, you're not going to be able to get to depth 5 that easily. It's hard. But if you focus on those, you'll improve way faster, I think, than many others. Because as you saw, there are plenty of depth 5 players that struggle too.